Firefox was released in 1982. It stars Clint Eastwood, who also directs the film, and he plays this pilot, an American pilot, war-torn kind of soldier. He's got a lot of damage, psychological kind of what you'd call post-traumatic stress disorder from his time in combat, and he's drafted by the US military to go and steal a Soviet plane, a new plane that is going to revolutionize war, basically give the Soviets the upper hand. So they send Eastwood's character in to infiltrate this hangar where it is being housed and to just steal it. So this is really Eastwood going into full-on espionage mode, whilst also trying to keep his fans, his long-term fans, invested by throwing in a lot of bursts of action in there as well, and maybe also getting some of the Star Wars crowd, from seeing all the stuff with the blowing up of the Death Star and bringing on John Dykstra, who did the effects for Star Wars, to do some of that stuff with the plane. It's a bit of a mishmash, is this film. It feels like a film of two halves, which is always a stupid saying, I know. It's one of those sayings that kind of, well, yeah, of course. But the first half of this film feels like a full-on espionage, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, From Russia with Love kind of, espionage movie. The second half, which is when Eastwood's character gets hold of the plane, it's just a straight-up action film. It's just like, I think something like Stealth, something like that. I think it would work better if, one, you shaved about half an hour off the screen time. This film is way too long, and I think particularly in the first half, it gets bogged down with a lot of the espionage stuff, a lot of the running around and clicking of feet down corridors and in subways, and it's just like I find myself yawning through a lot of it and really struggling to keep up. Not because it's hard to follow, but just because I'm bored. I want to get there faster. It's like, we know what he's trying to do. We know he's trying to get to this plane, so just get there faster, please. But I feel like Eastwood's trying to build the tension by having these prolonged chase sequences, but I just start to lose interest by that point. There is this character called Pavel that Eastwood's character meets, played by Warren Clark, and I think once them two get together on the road, like they have a few sequences before that where I'm just like, okay, yeah, this guy's clearly, like, he's a bit of a thug, bit of a ruffian, he does some nasty business to several guys, and you're like, all right, pleasant fellow. But once the two of them get into a van together and they start talking and you get a bit of history from this guy, you start to know who he is, why he is the way that he is, and why he's doing what he's doing, it humanizes him a bit more, and I start to become a bit more invested. But we're like 40 minutes into the movie by that point. But it's like, it is at that point where I do start to take an interest in the movie. And I just feel like if they could have condensed those first 40 minutes down into, say, 20 minutes, I would have been a lot more satisfied by the time we get to the end. And likewise, the midsection when Eastwood's actually stealing the plane, there's a whole load of stuff with the characters who are helping him do it, the Russian characters who essentially are putting their lives on the line so that he can get this plane out. And a lot of that stuff I find interesting as well. I'm engaged. I'm rooting for them. I feel bad for the predicament they're in order to help this man. So all that stuff I'm quite invested in. And then Eastwood steals a plane, and from then on we've just got like this really long, stretched out sequence in which, multiple sequences in which the Soviets are trying to track him. They're trying to figure out, where is he going in this plane? How can we catch him? We're going to send our own man in another one of these planes to try and shoot him down. And it just becomes, the end becomes a bit Star Wars. you know, in the trenches of the Death Star, that kind of thing. And it's fine. It's thrilling in a early 80s kind of way. The special effects don't quite hold up these days. But you can imagine back then watching this, it would have been, all right, finally, we've got to the action and it's quite thrilling. And yeah, it's all right. It's fine. It's not Top Gun Maverick, obviously. It's 40 years older. This should have been an hour and a half. That's what I'll say. It's not a loss. It's not a bad film. Like, I would recommend it just because there is a whole load of stuff in the midsection where I did start to get really engaged, and I started to realize that, right, that's the hook. That's what Eastwood has been grabbed by. I think he's read the script, and that's what's pulled him in. It's just unfortunate that all the stuff that it's sandwiched between isn't quite as engaging. We also have Eastwood's character, as I say, dealing with this post-traumatic stress thing, and how's that going to affect him? Is he going to be able to accomplish his mission when he's dealing with all these flashbacks all the time? And I don't really feel like that goes anywhere of any vital importance. It's just an extra thing, really, just to give this guy some character, a struggle that he has to kind of wrestle with when he's in the thick of it. But the fact that he's in the thick of it is struggle enough. I understand that, you know, if you're the star, if you're the main actor, and you're also directing it, you want to give your character a bit more meat and stuff. And I don't know how much of that was added once Eastwood got hold of the script, or how much of it was there from the beginning. But for me, it felt like it was just tacked on to give this guy something, a bit more depth. Freddie Jones in this as well, I found a little bit annoying. I can't say I'm overly familiar with him as an actor. I know I've seen his face before in other things, but just the way he articulates, the way he speaks, feels over the top, very theatrical, very, I'm acting, look at me. And yeah, so just something about the way he performed his role grated on my nerves every time he was on screen. So for me personally, in this long run of Eastwood movies that I've been looking at, this has definitely been my least favourite. It is definitely the one that I'm most likely to not return to again. I think, you know, I've seen it. I'm fine. I'm happy that I've seen it, but I probably won't return to it. Yeah, if you're an Eastwood fan, you're a bit of a completist, then you need to watch it. And like I say, there's stuff in there that is entertaining and of interest. But given the quality of Eastwood's work, of his movies, his back catalogue that I've reviewed so far, this is definitely below the usual standard. Do you agree with my assessment of the film, or do you have a different opinion? Please let me know what that opinion is down in the comments section below if you have seen it. Yeah, thank you for watching this review, and until next time, cracking.